It says you can. The meeting is being live streamed.
It's still doing its thing on my end. There we go. Done. I just want to make sure the volume is off. Oh, what?
It says you can.
Odd.
The meeting is being live streamed.
This is strange. Oh, okay. No, this is good. This is good. This is good. It's still doing its thing on my end. There we go. Done. I just want to make sure the volume is off. I'm looking for the volume. Where's the volume? There we go. Perfecto. And then, okay, we'll record to this computer. All right. All right. I'm gonna hit the button and then we'll start us off. Oh, is it on? Okay.
Hello, divine, beautiful souls.
Hi, Nathan.
Energy Speaks podcast with your host, well, Nathan, really, but there's Catriel. Hi.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi. Yay.
Fellow Capricorn.
So today is Bring Your Capricorn to Work Day. And that being said, I want to say thank you so much, Ella, for coming here on Energy Speaks podcast. We are really diving deep into the waters of Capricorn. We've been going through what you see behind me, for our viewers, is the Zodiac Energy Empowerment Series. And we've been working our way through, and we are now at the Capricorn energy, which is all about I decide, I commit, and I build my foundation. And so that's a lot of energy, like we've had to go through a lot to get here, with, setting the sacred space and all of the beautiful things we're building up within ourselves, and communicating that with the universe and harmonizing. I'm kind of going through it a little, but now we're at the actual first step in this particular model, where it's the first earth sign. It's the element of earth first comes in with Capricorn, and it's become tangible to us. And so, Ella, it's really great because in our last season for the Zodiac Energy Empowerment Series, you were in Virgo energy that you were teaching. And I just love how the universe plays and moves with us to best fit what we're going through. And which, it's kind of funny because you were in an earth sign before, and it was the last step in the model. But now we're kind of going backwards a little bit, not backwards, but through the model, we're honing in this energy of, really getting clear on our decisions and our commitments, so we can really build that foundation that is so sturdy. It's weird. I'm gonna bring up obviously I'm Jewish, but I feel like, the out of the book of Luke in the the Christian writings, it talks about how do we build our foundation, a foundation on sand, on rock, all of these things matter. Where our passion is where our foundation is. And so I chose you, and the universe chose you for this class, because I feel like you've been building and building and building and getting really, really clear and precise, which makes perfect sense why you were Virgo prior to this, in a way. And that foundation is becoming really, really clear on what you're building. And so I would love for you to share with us this coined term of business is isness.
Thank you. Well,
That
first
was
of
a
all, I
long
just
little
wanted to
intro.
say that I really appreciate being invited to come and participate in this series. I really believe in the vision of helping people to better understand themselves using the language and the voice of astrology. And the particular model that you use is very unique and just gives a different periphery to speak on the energies. And so I'm just really honored to be part of the series and to be part of this unique voice and vision sharing astrology for us astrology lovers, right? It's just another way to share ourselves in the energy and like I said, in a very unique astrological perspective. So again, thank you so much for inviting me. And as we continue to explore these energies, because it's easy to say I'm teaching this class, right? But I'm also learning the class. So I've heard when you teach something, you learn it twice. And so it was really, I was really grateful for you to ask for me to lead the Capricorn class as I'm learning to lead the Capricorn energy in my own life. um, Only because I've decided since 2018 to step into becoming an entrepreneur. And that's very much Capricorn energy, right? It's very much about being the boss. And it makes sense because Capricorn rules astrologically in the Western zodiacal wheel, the 10th house, which is the career house, the achievement house. It's where we're the authority. And I have Virgo in that house. So it's kind of funny that, you asked me for Virgo season, right? So it's always kind of been my path to learn to commit to health practices, to my continuing education, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, who likes to learn, and so it's constantly being the student and being the teacher, and then solving the energy of, well, how do you make money off of it? How do you build a business? Being yourself, being that inner authority, being on the health practice, right? So you want to look at the houses of the 10th house, the 6th house, and the 2nd house. Those are considered your money houses in Western astrology. So giving a little bit of reference to my configurations, I've got Capricorn 2nd house, Taurus my 6th house, and Virgo my 10th house. So I've got earth signs on the money houses or the career houses. And so with 2nd house, we talk about value, right? And money and your worth. And I have Capricorn in that house. So it's been a process for me to learn how to value myself and my worth and my own inner authority, right? My own inner knowing. Because we all are masters at something, right? And if you don't know what you're a master at, just point to what you do every day without getting paid for it. What you do when you lose time and space and you're just doing it, and right. And because you love doing it, you do it all the time. And so we might have a natural mastery, a proclivity to a mastery that we don't even know. And so this has been since 2018 as going through my own awakening and my own process of becoming and having this need. It's funny. The universe kind of pushed me, if you will, towards entrepreneurship because I was learning from the career path that I had been in, which was hospitality. I kind of got into hospitality haphazardly, if you will, although there's no accidents. But back in 1991, I started working at a restaurant to pay my way through college. And then I just kind of stayed with the restaurant business because there was so much good money. And I liked the freedom and I loved being of service, right? So now here we are 25 years later, and the COVID hit and the pandemic. And so the whole restaurant hospitality industry changed. And I had already been changing back in 2018 when my son graduated, and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I was having a hard time with authority. I was having a hard time being told what to do. I did not align with the values of the restaurant at the time. Ironically enough, I didn't think they kept it clean enough. And I won't tell you the restaurant that I worked at the time, but then, here we are, 2020 pandemic, right? And everything had to be clean. So I knew this was coming in a way. just because we needed to change our practices for health and for, accountability in the health, which is very much Virgo season right now, right? We're in September when we're filming this. So it is very much about, um, purifying, if you will.
Yeah.
So back in 2018, that was my soul's way of sort of purifying, say you're no longer a vibrational match to this career path. We're setting you up to where you need to be the boss, you need to be the authority. And I didn't know what that looked like, or how would I even go about that, right? And there's so much to live in entrepreneurship is not an easy path, I would say, because we've been so indoctrinated and ingrained to go to work, right? To clock in every day, do our shift, whatever that may be, clock out, come home and not worry about it. We get paid, it's this whole process. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself. There are no days off unless, of course, you relegate them that way. And so it is very much about a sovereignty journey to learn to to generate income. It's never by yourself, but you're the boss of how that looks, how that. So to me, it's been a very spiritual process, because when you decide that you want to self-generate, and when we look at money, we talked a lot about this as far as spiritual, that it's currency of energy. So it's learning to manage and to master your own current of energy and how to wield it sovereignly without having to clock in or have somebody else pay you. You learn to pay yourself. You learn to, by the creations, by the offerings, by the value you bring to other people, people pour into you. It's a direct exchange. There's no more third party, somebody else, you're clocking in and then you're getting a percentage and making the majority of the money to the boss, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, it's a level of responsibility and commitment that I wasn't prepared to take. I didn't know. I knew and this was the interesting, because I had squares going on at the time between Uranus in my own chart and Saturn. And we've got these squares coming up also astrologically, which is really pushing us also to learn to develop that business of isness, because we know that with AI technology and with structures happening and shifting within corporations, a lot of the mundane jobs that most people have now will be replaced by AI technology. This is very Pluto and Aquarius. So it's learning how to self-source, how to become the entrepreneur, how to generate other sources of income besides just the job market. Because what if the jobs are taken, right? What if AI is coming to replace a lot of these? And we're starting to find that now. So it's really the opportunity for us to step into following your bliss, following how you want to be of service, and learning to master it, learning to commit to that mastery so that you can exchange your energy with another that finds value, and that you can receive that value, that exchange energy. And so all that's being reorganized, because Pluto, the planet of transformation, is going to be the last time in Capricorn. It went retrograde to kind of finish up the summoning up of Capricorn energies, which is all about big business, organizations, corporatocracy, right? So it's coming to have to reorganize and take down and tear down some of those structures that are no longer benefiting all of humanity. Aquarius is all about the human, right? Our humanness. And if it's only serving a few, those are the systems that are having to go back and be collapsed. So there's a regeneration of wealth happening right now on the planet, and it's happening through the people learning to be sovereign, learning to share their gifts, and learning to generate income on their own without a third party boss or organization or corporation, right? Except for maybe through social media would be your third party. But even then, it's people are learning how to self-source, how to generate 100% of their profits of what they create.
Right.
And so I would just like to preface that this class that's coming up, I have no way mastered it yet by any means, but I'd love to share what I'm learning currently, which is in the field of digital marketing, and how to actually, again, become the generative principle, how to self-source and how to create through digital products and services value and items and things that people can pour right into you and can purchase right from you. So as I'm learning these processes myself, I'm happy to share what I'm learning, but it is what I have found. It's not just like, learning how to do e-commerce or learning how to do digital marketing or, how to. It's actually a lot of personal development and developing the mindset on how to become an entrepreneur and how to change how you see everything from your daily practice to when you wake up. If you're the boss, you have to learn to think like a boss and think like, you know, so it's a whole process. It's not just you wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you can, but you have to realize there's a lot of steps to becoming that. And some people it might be easier for some people than others. But for me, I know that's definitely the journey. And one of the schools classes that I'm taking currently is how to, live in the business of Isness and to self-generate and to become that entrepreneur and still do what I love and still, have a valuable life and have time with my friends and family, right? So I think we're all trying to master this on some level, is this work-life balance, but also learning to self-generate and to become abundant based on our gifts and services, not what we do for bigger corporations. So I'm going to take a pause now. There was a lot of conversation there, but
so there's a couple of things that came up.
Sure.
First of all, I've been listening to this awesome guy named Russell Brunson.
Mhm.
And I don't know if have you ever listened to him before?
I've heard of him, but I've never listened to it, but I've heard of him.
Okay, so I'm actually doing an audible book, Expert Secrets, I believe it's called. And
I'm sorry, what's it called again? Can you say that again?
Expert Secrets.
Okay.
And like you can actually get his book free and just pay for shipping, which is kind of cool. But I've been doing the Audible version, and because it's just easier for me on the go. And it kind of goes back to what you were talking about in regards to how do we set up our day. We have to find the right tools that help us, because not every tool is the right one for us, or we may need a certain tool at a certain hour, based on what the flow of our day is. But listening to him, I've been getting a lot of gold, and it's been a lot of things. I went to a business mastery course with Tony Robbins, and I went to a Brendan Bouchard thing, and it's echoed literally the same thing. It's repeated. And I'm like, wow, I really need to pay attention, write this stuff down, integrate it. Because if I integrate it, I'm going to be able to implement it better and really allow myself to receive this energy. And
what keeps showing up that's consistent? What are you hearing?
Right. And one of the things that's echoed in the book is you do not need to be an expert to have a business or do whatever. It's literally just being one step ahead of your clientele. And he brings up the example in the book of, have you ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can?
With Leonardo DiCaprio and
Yes.
Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks. Yeah. Okay.
He did not know any of those jobs at all. He pretty much, like, he was like, I guess in that, there might be a parallel book to it or something like that too, because I can't remember everything that was in there. But in the book I'm reading right now, he was talking about how he was a professor, and that he didn't know anything about sociology, but all he had to do is stay one chapter ahead of his students to be able to teach it. And I was like, that's kind of genius. And the person in so what I'm trying to get clear on in this particular book is, because I'm, sometimes with listening on the road, you miss a couple things. And what I got out of it, I think at first, is the guy who's speaking through the Audible is one of Russell Brunson's clients that is paving this process that Russell Brunson actually created, like the framework that he created. And so if I'm wrong on that, please comment and let me know, because there's a lot in that book and I'm still processing. But what he was saying is that he actually did horrible in school. He like just did the bare minimum. But he learned how whatever he was passionate about, to harness that, live it, breathe it. And even if he didn't know all the answers, he just needed to, again, be one step ahead. And I started thinking about that, like, yes, I love astrology. That is something I'm developing in myself right now. And I don't know all the answers, but there are certain things in astrology that when I learn from others, I start to put the puzzles pieces together and start seeing through a new lens. That right there is when we get that inspiration to go in a different direction because no one's done it before. It's like it's a pilot program, right? It's a thing that excites us, and there's energy that wants to flow to allow the inventor to come out, the adventurer to come out. And I'm paying attention to those moments because that's gold right there. And we don't have to have all the answers, but documenting the process, it's really important. Because others want to know, how did you navigate through this process? So I find it very perfect, honestly, that you are teaching this course, because you're showing that. You're showing that you don't have all the answers, but you're navigating your vehicle, and this is where it's taken you. And you can show others who are a step behind how to do it faster, how to do it better. And that saves a lot of time for people because, as you said to me in the past, time is all we have. It's so sacred.
Yeah.
And we can only put so many tasks and, be present in the moment for so many things. And when we can train that mind to focus and harness that energy, we're at a whole nother level.
It's funny. I like, I love to play with words. And when you use the word document, I'm thinking of, sitting on the dock of the bay, dock, and then you in the mental realms. So documenting is really seeing where you are in the mental realm, where you're docked, where you're anchored, where you're set, where you're moving. And in this realm of where we're learning to navigate and to commit, which is very much Capricorn. Because the Pluto of transformation is now changing Capricorn, which is almost, I see it like changing old structures. And when we were first talking in this conversation, the power of commitment and the power of knowing what you want to create for the long term, I think of, the pyramid builders, right? They took on a Capricorn endeavor to do something very precise and to commit to this giant process. And it's still being debated on how the pyramids were created, right? It's still the great mystery. But there was a commitment there. And it was a commitment to generate something for the long term, right? So the metaphor of the pyramid and the longevity of the pyramids, to me, is such a great metaphor for Capricorn in general. And so when we're looking to create also the word legacy, right? To leave our legacies as you get older, which Capricorn rules the elders are more concerned about what legacies they're leaving. So I feel like it's not until later in life, really, when you get into your late 40s, 50s, even a lot of the secret societies don't even initiate people until they're in their 40s or 50s because they don't have the skills yet until that age group and that sort of maturity, right? Which is very Saturn and Capricorn. It's a maturity energy. And so
Yeah.
you don't get there until you've had some experiences. So you've had some life lessons, and Saturn comes in, which is our taskmaster, and our teacher, which is the ruler of Capricorn, is going to show us some disciplinary practices and is asking us, what is your legacy? You know, we are eternal beings, but for this realm in time and space, what would you like to leave for the collective energy as a remembrance? Because Capricorn's all about how I use, right? So what did you master? And then how are you using that energy to help the collective, which is the sign right after, which would be Aquarius, right? So the Capricorn is, I use this energy that I've worked really hard to cultivate through my commitment to this mastery. And now in Aquarius is like, I'm ready to share it for the collective energy for all of humanity. So it is a process. And then when the Pisces, it's like, okay, now that that structure has been created, now it can be left, because like I said, it's a great mystery. We don't know where the pyramids came from or what they were used for, but yet they're still standing. And in the great last cycle of the zodiacal wheel, which is Pisces, it's up to us to decipher and to feel into what that pyramid was used for, right? What that structure was used, its use, its utilitarian function for all of humanity. So that's the power of Capricorn and commitment. Once you're willing to commit to the legacy you want to leave on the planet and the voice you want to leave to help others on their journey. But it's a very solo journey. You know, it's like we're doing it for the collective, but you gotta do the work. You gotta be willing to take on that responsible nature and say, no, I'm gonna show up for myself every day. But that's why if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, because now you're just excited. You're in your passion, you're in your purpose, you're waking up and you're creating. And then all of a sudden you're generating abundance because you love it so much and people want to pour into you. So that's really, to me, the highest version of Capricorn that we can attain is really being in our purpose and doing what we love. And it doesn't feel like work. It feels like service, and, you know, a level of gratitude we can step into. What did they say? Before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. And then you have enlightenment. And then afterwards, you got to chop wood and carry water. You still got to do the work, right? It's kind of like brushing our teeth or deodorant. You got to do it consistently. It's not like something that's a one and done, like you said at the beginning of this podcast. It's a constant. So knowing your why, knowing your purpose, getting clear on how you want to be of service is all part of this Capricorn flow. And so that's what we're going to be diving into this class, is just some steadfast, first of all, the mental constructs you almost have to have, and then teaching some digital marketing techniques if you do want to put yourself online, and just some practical applications on how to generate in that way.
I love that. Can I share something in regards to like the purpose of really bringing this Zodiac Energy Empowerment series? Why did I do it? Well, of course, it goes back to me at first, right? Because I wanted to explore. I wanted to explore the realms of the Zodiac. And I took a class with you, back in 2018, a course for astrology. And I had been, prior to that, in 2017, studying, the model that you see here through Chris Witecki. And I just thought it was so unique because of the way the placements were. And I was like, this is a completely different cycle. It's not that, like the season cycle matters. It's not like that goes away. But this is more, or the model we're working on is more closely related to the degree points, a step-by-step kind of, step-by-step system, which again, there's 29 degrees, right? So that means at a certain point, these, signs actually have to come together and we add, and it equals another energy, which is interesting. So there's like lots of interesting complexities when we get into the decades, you know? And so I'm like, I knew that there was this kind of revolutionary idea within this, and I wanted to explore that to a different level. But where the zodiac energy empowerment came in is I had been to a lot of classes that were all mental. I love mental, don't get me wrong, but I'm very much so a kinesthetic learner. And oftentimes I can't sit still for more than 10 minutes without needing to go do something. And of course, it takes discipline. Obviously, we've been on here for more than 10 minutes, and my passion is here, right? But I thought to myself, well, how can we explore these energies in a new way that is embodied, that is so personal to ourselves that no one can tell us, this is how I experience Aries, or this is how I experience Capricorn. And that's really it. It's empowering ourselves to identify for ourselves through an experience, through a teaching, through taking on certain tools and implementing into our lives to see how that energy feels within us. And I feel like when we can do that, when we can say, wow, this is what the Cancer energy feels like within myself. And I even see that in another person. And we can start having a deeper dialogue, one, with our creator, two, with ourself, and three, with the other. And I was like, wow, I want to take that class. I want to take that series to be able to build myself up, because where we're about to navigate, I've been, doing a lot of study within the Kabbalistic astrology. In this book, it has a revolutionary idea that I've been exploring for over a year now. And it's something that my passion is really in. And it has to do with the ages. It has to do with this age of Aquarius and where we came from, the age of Pisces. And before that, throughout time, we've had symbols showing us what age we're in. Now, I will tell you, with anyone you talk to, I guarantee you're going to get a different answer out of them, because my teacher from Orosoma told me this is how it went. In this book, he carves out how the ages were a different way, but the core principle says we're changing energies, and we're going to be looking at things in a different and through new eyes and paying attention to that. So knowing how for instance, with the zodiac, how that feels within us is super transformative, because those concepts may actually change. But the feeling within us of that core knowing, yeah, I mean, things shift and change all the time, but that inner knowing will stay constant. That when something does change or shift, we can recognize it within ourselves and adapt and thrive. Oof, that was fun.
Speaking of inner authority, I can't wait to hear more of, and I'm not sure if you're already doing this, but you really never hear about Jewish astrology. So it's a niche, and I'm excited that you're, again, when you follow your passion, you don't work a day in your life. So Joseph Campbell talks about that, about following your bliss. And Alan Watts says the same thing. It's like, to do something for strictly money, it's almost idiosyncrasy. It's craziness. If you do something that you love to do and you're passionate at, then people will naturally want to pour money into you, because you become an authority for doing it because you love it so much. And so that's what Capricorn season for me has really been so poignant It's where do we commit to things in our lives? And where are we willing to be the inner authority and to step up into the elder? It doesn't matter what age you are, but there is a maturation process. And I know through you, a lot of the work you do with your clients and your coaching is going through the Saturn return, which is a really great niche and a really great, age group of people to be working with, especially with working with Saturn, because Saturn is one of the most important planets to help us to be a teacher. Same with the asteroids with Chiron and different things, but there's certain planetary energies that we may resist because it brings boundaries, but at the same time, it's necessary. If we didn't have bones, we would just be flesh just flying all over the place, right? So the necessity of Saturn means we need to have those structures so that we can actually move through this world and have these experiences. So yeah, I'm excited about the Capricorn class in relation to just the possibilities of everybody learning that wants to learn how to be their own inner authority. Maybe not even so much an entrepreneur, because that's not for everybody. I'm realizing. But if you're wanting just some skills, if you're learning to put yourself in the digital marketing world, if you're learning even how to develop the mindset of entrepreneurism, and you're interested in astrology, then this is a really great class that's going to be integrating, both those concepts of commitment, authority, and then weaving it into the spiritual realm of astrology and how to utilize some of these navigational forces that are already around us, working with us in a very precise way. So,
and another piece from the side of what I'll be touching upon in the class as well is the Kabbalistic astrology.
Beautiful.
Connected. So for those who are not aware of what Kabbalistic astrology is, so Kabbalah literally means receiving. And Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. So it's taken from the principles of the fabric of the universe. And we're going to have a dialogue around that receiving energy through the lens of the astrology. And what does that mean? From a Kabbalistic astrology, that means we're going to be talking about our soul mission. And so Capricorn, yes, every time we go through the season of Capricorn, or it comes up in conversation, like maybe the moon or the earth, it is teaching us something. And it has a clear role of what is called a tikkun. A tikkun means healing, repair, and it's also what I like to call the superpower. Because Jews, from a Kabbalistic perspective, believe in reincarnation. We do believe in past lives. Not that we were placed here or, like it happens to be that we were born at the exact moment we were. We chose it. We chose it for a purpose. Yeah. And that purpose is going to be illuminated and we can see it through our chart, our birth chart.
Yes.
And so I got tingles right now. And so where we look at is we look at the nodes for that, and we look at our sun and our earth sign, because the opposition signs or complements, okay, are showing us something because in Kabbalah, we believe in wholeness, the wholeness of the being. So that where there's one point, there's always a second point. And that reflection is always showing something. It's always showing us something. And so we're both of them. We're both this and this. But we need to see how we connect to those energy and fill in the blanks. And so our chart really shows us maybe where there's more challenges going on. That does not mean that challenge is actually an opportunity for us to learn more and to search more. And so it's interesting we're talking about the Capricorn energy because it's a challenging energy. It really is. You know, if we looked at it from the perspective of the house system, right? It's the 10th house. That means that Aries is the baby, and we've worked all the way up to the 10th degree in a way, you know, that 10th house of learning something.
Well, they call it the midhaven for a reason because it's almost too, if you think of energetically, you're halfway to heaven. So, you know, you're usually in your 50s, 60s when you get to that place of authority. So that means you're halfway to heaven. That's, they call that the midheaven, right? And then the IC is the opposite, which would be the house and home. So it does make sense that that is where other people look to us for authority as well. And it's usually when you're older and when you're halfway to heaven, right? And then you've gotten into your elder years that people are starting to look to you to see your mastery. Which I've noticed, and that's another thing I wanted to touch on too, is in this culture in the United States, in particular here in the Northern Hemisphere, there's been a deep lack of reverence for elders in this country, which, you know, the country was formed on the Capricorn and Cancer axis. I do believe that Cancer is the rising of the United States chart. So, and even astrologically, you know, we're born onto the axis of Capricorn and Cancer, right? The hemispheres. So those are the only two that really the people that humans were really aware of that axis point, because that's the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn is where we wobble and where the earth goes back and forth. And so that to me is the material, right? Because Capricorn is the material and Cancer is the great womb, the great mother, where we come from. That's why, you know, Capricorn, the constellation of Capricorn, which is different than the zodiacal sign, just so you know, the constellation is considered the sea goat because it's almost like it comes from the waters of Capricorn into the earth, into the ascension of climbing through. So it's really deep when you start working with oppositions as complements. And again, it's just there's so many layers to it and, you know, ways we can explore. But like I said, this particular Capricorn class is really going to be anchoring in and working with the mastery of Saturn, even though it's considered a malefic. And you know, modern astrology, it just means that it's a challenging energy because it's what makes you stronger. If you don't have an opponent in the arena, you're not going to get stronger. And think about people that take martial arts or different, you know, jujitsu or different, they have masters, and eventually you have to get in the arena with the master, right? To learn to get strong. And so that's what Saturn is. It's the master that says, hey, get in this arena because I'm about to show you something. I'm about to teach you something. I'm about to discipline you with something, but that's only going to help you. And it's only going to make you stronger. Think of like Doctor Strange, right? And when he got in, when he first met, you know, he had to get in the arena with him. He had to learn these things. As strong as he was and as mind oriented as was, he had to learn how to be in his body and his belief in his heart. So it's not for the weak hearted, but again, Saturn is there for all of us and Capricorn is there for all of us to step into our mastery and to know that we are masters of something. And it's usually based on what we love to do because we do it every day. So it's just going to point at those, for those that are maybe even are contemplating, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know how Capricorn is operating in my life. This would be a good class to come in and take some pointers and to help you point, well, what do you like to do every day? You know, what would you do if even if you're not getting paid for it? You know, that's just painting or whatever the case may be. That's going to point you to, and Saturn in your chart is going to point you to also the level of mastery that you've come to learn from past incarnations, because we talked about that. So Saturn is letting you know where the taskmaster in this lifetime is going to show up for you. So that's something else to contemplate too, as we're going to be diving into Capricorn. We're going to be looking at its ruler, Saturn, and where that is in your chart, and maybe giving you some pointers as to what your purpose is. if
I
you
love
don't know it yet, or if you're still navigating and working towards it.
I actually, okay, so throughout the whole time, I gotta like ask, because I feel like there's someone who will be viewing this that we talked about the opposition energy, and you referenced the square energy before.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, can you paint a picture of the energy of a square?
Yes. So squares to me, if you think it's a 90-degree angle, right? So it's a square. It's basically you're at an angle, and it's this point here of the angle, right? So 90 degrees. And we know nines in numerology, it's a mystical number, the 369 codes. And 9 is the last sign of the zodiac, and it means change. It's where it's something and it moves into something else. So whenever we have squares in a chart, that means that there needs to be something that shifts to move. So think of like a square, say so you're sitting on a chair and you want to get up. You have to move. So your seat, your knees are at a 90-degree angle. You're sitting on the chair and you want to move. And we know that the universe is constantly changing. So it's in our life when we come up with a square energy, it's the universe saying there's something needs to change or you need to move something around in your life. You've been stagnant on that 90-degree chair plateau for a while, you need to move it. And so the universe is going to come in and create circumstances or opportunities for you to move. And awareness is what gives you choice as to what you move into. That's free will. Allegedly we have it, but anyway, it's another conversation. But
I love that.
that to me, in my understanding of squares, is how I've been able to navigate squares. And again, not judging the energy is right or wrong or good or bad or hard or soft. It's all for you. The trines, the harmonious aspects are for you. The squares, the oppositions, the harder aspects, they're also for you. May not be as easy or fun to go through as, say, a sextile or a trine or even a conjunction, depending, but it's there for you. So it's think of like stagnant water. You can't have stagnant water. You could have it moving and free flowing for it to be healthy. It's the same thing with the body. It's the same thing with anything in our lives. You know, if we're always comfortable, we're never going to change. And so the universe is coming along and saying, hey, you might have gotten too comfortable in that seat. You're at 90 degree. You need to move. You need to shift. You need to invite in some, circulation and some things. So if we're not inclined to do that on our own, then the universe will come in and kind of, but again, it's for us. It's not, universe is always working in our favor. We just have to entrain the mind to see it as such, to have a better experience of it. If you choose, you don't have to, but
I see it as the catapulting energy. That's
yeah.
But you just made me look at the energy like it in a different way, because like the 9 in the degree point, like the model we're using here for the Z's is Aries, which is taking inspired action. And so I'm like, and then the 9, so the 0 would be the sacred space that was created that jumps out and is like, yo, we're doing this.
and ironically enough, in historic astrology, modern astrology, they consider Mars also a malefic. So they consider Mars and Saturn malefic planets, again, because it creates change. It's something outside of you that comes and makes you move, whether you're ready for it or not. And so that's why it can be a challenging energy. But if you understand or understand it and realize, okay, I'm probably stagnant, I need to move, something needs to shift, that's why the practice is not to hang on to, if things are really good, awesome. If things are really bad, awesome. Kind of to maintain a level of whatever comes in, to be prepared, because things are always changing. And so if you can just maintain that level of, what is it Buddha says, just meet that middle path, right? It's like treating the same energy if you can, and this is a mastery. Say you heard that you won the lottery, right? Most of us would go ballistic and go crazy, but the masters are saying, don't get so spiked in your energy where it can create an imbalance, or don't get it, if you hear that your car is getting ready to be be repossessed, cancel, clear, delete. And, and then you're going into this fear mode. Again, Saturn is coming in on both instances saying, don't hang on too much to either like happy, happy joy or sad, 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 because things are going to always change. So you're just in the moment. How are you handling that moment? Are you managing your mind? Are you able to, get into this space where the inner knowing of how to navigate this is going to happen, but it's only by being present. So Saturn is the taskmaster that's going to come and discipline us, again, only to make us tougher, not to punish us in any way. That's an old paradigm. That's actually an old belief system raised in religion. And we're not going to go there in this conversation, but there's a new frequency available to us if we choose to turn and face it in that way and not look at it as bad or good or right or wrong anymore. It's just an energy. It's how we relate to it.
Wow. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like at some point there's going to be some type of a class that, I don't know, maybe we both do it. I don't know how it plays out, but just as we're kind of working through the Zodiac Energy Empowerment series with breaking down the energies for each Zodiac, I feel like if you watch someone who's doing a full-on astrology, like conversation, about, hey, what's going on in the planetaries, not always do we get to really feel like, oh, well, Saturn's squaring, blah, 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 like it's all these different terms. And it's like, okay, it's great for the astrologer and the brain aspect.
But what does it mean?
But what does it literally feel like? What does it mean? How can I place myself there? And I feel like that's where I want to change the name of the game of astrology so that we can feel it and learn from it. It's like, because I'm a feeler. Scorpio, it's
with Cancer moon. Yes.
With a Cancer moon. I want to literally be like, be in it. And because it took me the longest time for the aspects, there we go, that's the word, to really truly get it and how they all relate. Now I can say, oh my gosh, a square has to be between all immutables or all fixed or all cardinal. And I'm like, and I want to place myself in a particular, zodiac. Like, okay, I'm Leo looking at Scorpio, and how my Scorpio, me Scorpio, my Leo friends, for instance, or my Aquarius friends, or fiance, how they literally help us to and I can say us because Scorpio, help us to grow, challenge us to a way that will move, and it's like, when you put that in perspective, it's like having a light, under your butt and shoom, you know what I mean?
And it's interesting. We have to really get past this polarity of right and wrong, good and bad, and saying that, harder aspects are negative, because from what I've discovered, if I've got a square going on in my chart where something needs to move, that means that probably, for example, I need to go on for a workout. I need to move something literally. And so when I look at that square going, oh, right now we've got, Mars squaring Jupiter, and okay, so I got to take action on how I expand, and there's a square. So something is asking me to push past my comfort zone. I'm being asked to take an action that's going to expand me, that's going to push me out of my comfort zone. Okay, so this square is benefiting me. But then also trine energies, we talk about, trine are harmonious, right? But if you've got a trine, say with Saturn and an acute illness, there's no problem with that acute illness there's no resistance to you still having that pain. So not even all trines are positive, and not all squares or oppositions are negative. We got to get past that.
Agreed.
Language. It really, we're evolving past that. If we're evolving past duality, which is good and bad, right and wrong, if we're moving in that middle way, then it's all happening for us. It's just varying degrees.
Right.
Like water. Is the water really, really hot, or is the water really, really cold? Well, it depends on the degree point, which is the same thing astrologically. The varying degrees of how much change do you have to make to to work with the square energy, or, you know, how much can you relax into this beautiful trine that's just working with you, right? So again, for me, astrology is helping us even evolve out of this polarity language of good and bad, right or wrong. And
It's
and
happening for
honestly, it
us.
helps eliminate judgment that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another key principle with Kabbalistic astrology is that there's not a bad aspect. There's not a bad sign or energy. It's literally divinely created for us to experience to further our growth.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, even though it's coined Kabbalistic astrology, you know, I feel like that is what we're moving to as a planet. It's not a Jew thing.
Right.
It's a wholeness thing. You
Mhm.
know, it's holistic astrology. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And honestly, most of these concepts that you know that are connected with Kabbalistic astrology, I had no clue. It was something that was downloaded within me, that most of the things I did not necessarily study until I picked up a book and had confirmation from the insights that were downloaded to me. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, like the other day, my rabbi asked me, can you take on our Jewish studies class on Wednesday? Because we share Monday and Wednesday classes. And the Jewish studies class is for elementary students. And she's like, can you, instead of going with the original lesson plan, can you teach them the Jewish calendar and astrology? I'm like, well, that's an incentive. And then she's like, even if you'd like to teach them about the Greek mythology. And you know, I had to honestly say to her, I don't know the Greek mythology. I'm like, I do realize I like practice astrology and live and breathe, you know, but I've always seen it and been downloaded it from more of like in a different way. That's just a personal thing. And so when I told her that, I think she was probably shocked. But it does make me want to see, because the reason what she said was like, I would love to show them how drastically different the cultures are. And I'm like, gosh, it's been on my to-do list for quite some time to learn the Greek mythology, because I just want to know, you know, the stories and what was the thought
The
process and
Greeks
things
were
like that.
showmen. They love their stories.
Well, when I think what deterred me a little bit at first was because I had a class in college and we had to read like the Iliad, and that was like way too much for
Yeah.
me. Or maybe it was the Odyssey. One of the two. I'm like, can you just like give me the children's version? Picture book, please.
Actually, you know what? This is a good plug for a television series that I just started watching myself on Netflix called Chaos, Kaos. And it's
Oh,
all about the Greek gods and the pantheon of the gods. And Jeff Goldblum is Zeus. So if you're wanting
okay.
to study that, Catriel, check that out on Netflix. I think you will enjoy, because it has all the story. It has, you know, the characters. It has, you know, Ares, Hera, his wife, also his sister. So yeah, there's some interesting archetypes
Huh.
that you would
So
enjoy.
would this be from the Latin perspective?
No, Greek mythology. The name of the series is called Chaos on Netflix, Kaos. And it's
So,
about the Greek pantheon. It's about the
okay.
basically the Greek stories, Zeus and all the Olympians.
So wait, okay. Aries is Greek and not Latin.
Correct.
Okay, sorry. There's certain things I get so kind of confused between the two
Well,
lingo.
one is Roman stories. So you're either gonna, you know, be talking about like Zeus, I believe, has the Roman his name. So it's Zeus in Greek, and I think in Roman it's I can't think of the name, but there's dual names, but it's both the mythologies. It's like different
Okay.
I believe, yeah, I can't think of the,
We had to confuse us
yeah.
all with the culture. It's like, what?
Well, but yeah, that's because they were just replicating, but they're basically talking about this the psycho-spiritual nature of humans, of our nature. And they're just projecting it out into the gods, but it's really versions of us, like the father figure Zeus. So you would look at Jupiter in your chart, not Saturn, even though Saturn's considered the father.
Yeah.
Saturn, I've done deep dive into my own gnosis and found that Saturn is actually the great grandmother, and that Jupiter is the father.
Uh,
And yeah, very different archetypes from what we've been taught. Again, this is why it's good to study the mythology, but then to go and do your own gnosis on how it applies to you individually. And it might be different, you know. Like I said, I resonate way more with Jupiter as the father than I do Saturn, because Saturn rules Capricorn, which is feminine.
I love that.
So
Wow.
there's a reason why astrologically every alternate sign is, we start off masculine Aries, then feminine Taurus, masculine Gemini, feminine Cancer. So there's this. So the fact that Capricorn is feminine,
Yeah.
but has been given the opposite of the mother moon, right, as like the father, I don't feel like that's correct. I feel like Jupiter is the father because it's the king of the gods, right? The archetype of Jupiter, and it's the math rules a masculine sign, Sagittarius. So Saturn to me would be the great grandmother, because again, you think about the cosmic wound and the boundaries, Saturn holds all of it, because it's all about the big boundary, or the big womb, if you will.
Interesting.
Saturn was also at one point considered our the black sun, which was our central sun before it fell. And that's a whole nother story we can get into at a different time. But again, the stories were important because they're sharing ideas about our evolution and how we handle certain events in our lives. That's why they gave us these stories. These Greeks, comedy and tragedy, Shakespeare told the same thing. Is they're telling us how we work these things out, these energies out within ourselves. And there's actually a channeler. I don't know if you're familiar with him. His name is RJ Spina. But I watched a podcast with him recently. He talked about his belief and what he teaches about ascended masters, because he teaches people about ascended masters and Jesus and Mary in the Bible. Well, in his belief system, he talks about there's 12 gods and that we were created by one of the gods. So I find it so interesting that in astrology, there's 12 zodiacal. So is that the stories that we're telling ourselves, that each zodiacal aspect could be its own god form, and it houses a certain energy? So and it's all tied into DNA and the 12-strand DNA and the codons and the I Ching. And again, looking through the common golden weave of thread that weaves through all the stories of humans that have ever been told, is always pointing us back to self. It's always pointing us back to our evolution, where we were, where we are now, and where we're going. That's all these stories are doing. And so we're learning to connect to the stories, to integrate them and apply them in our own way, and then maybe to change the stories. Maybe, evolution is about not hanging on to any of the stories, especially if they're not relevant and they were only created at a certain time by the people in control and power. And we know that a lot of those power dynamics, Capricorn, Pluto, is changing. So with that, we're starting to see the change of the story, even in astrology, even in Western astrology. And there may be a point too when even the symbols are going to be shifted, and maybe they have been shifted. We're going back to original default, like you're saying. You're paying attention to the ages, and the symbols might have been shifted around, right? So
they were.
That's what I'm saying. We have to be willing to let go of all of it, even what we know about astrology. And I know I might piss off some of my astrologer friends out there, and I love you, but that's kind of where I'm at. I've got third house Aquarius. I'm willing to revamp the whole thing for truth.
If you're interested, I would love to do another podcast with you.
Okay.
About the astrology of the new aeon.
See, I would love to explore these things, because where we're coming into now with this last degree of Pisces and Neptune and Pisces is the age of illusion, and we're leaving that age of illusion. We're leaving the age of untruth. And so as that, to me, my guides my inner guidance system, when I say guides, I'm always asking back to self, is that they're saying, empty your cup every day of what you think you know, because things are shifting so quickly and the truth is really starting to emerge, that even if these astrological concepts got you here, which is great, and thank them, but if they're disintegrating and even some of these concepts need to disappear, to let them go with grace and ease, because there's going to be more truths coming up, just like extra land, or like we discover Atlantis or we discover Lemur, right? There's going to be new concepts of astrology through the pyramids and through activations and new awarenesses about time, because that's what astrology denotes and regulates, right? Time. And so we know that time has been calculated in a very interesting way in this planet. So we have to be willing to release everything we know about everything we know to experience truth, whatever that means. But you have to feel into it. It's not something that can be fully expressed.
Exactly. 11/11, by the way.
Ah!
So I want to say thank you so much, Ella, for coming on Energy Speaks podcast. It's such a gift. It's such a blessing to have you here and truly have a dynamic dialogue, especially with our loves, our passions. I want to take this moment to have you share how people can connect with you. Do you have a channel? I know you have a channel, but and how can they reach out to you and whatever you do?
Thank you. Yes. So my channel is Lives on Astrology, and you can find me on all the social media platforms. And I currently do not have a website, but you can find me on Facebook, and I have a lot of my scheduling appointments stuff there. Or you can reach out to me at livesonastrology@gmail.com. If you want some guidance, some support. Right now my progressed moon is in Libra, which I am being called to start a whole relationship series, since I'm learning about Libra and mastering relationships, and it seems to be one of my skill sets. So really looking into progressed relocated charts, and also composite charts or synastry charts, so taking two people's charts and overlapping them and looking at them and seeing, like you said, the dynamics, the challenges, the opportunities, that whether it's romantic partnerships, business partnerships, if you're having questions about sibling energy, whatever the case may be, that's something that my guides are telling me to move and focus on, because my progressed moon's in Libra. So I'm here to master Libra, which is all about the other relationship. So again, when you teach something, you learn it twice. So maybe teaching classes and learning how to relate through these maybe compassionate communications, but compassionate communication with yourself first. That's what I'm learning. So anyway, that's a series that I'm going to be on the lookout. Lives on Astrology for more of that type of content. So thank you.
Brilliant. Absolutely. And I want to say, if you like this episode, please share with another person. It could fulfill, some aspect of themselves today. That was a weird way of saying it. And subscribe if you like. Thank you all, divine, beautiful souls, and we will see you on the flip side. I need to ask you a question, but I just need to go back to the live thing so that it stops real quick.
Go to YouTube.
Oh, go to YouTube? How do I stop it?
So see at the top, I'm able to do it if you want.
Yeah.
It's live on YouTube. See the top left? Are you able to see it?
No. Wait, on actual YouTube.
On your, for whatever reason, I'm able to go there, but I don't know why.